Let's freaking go, Arkansas fans. It is game week. You have UAPB coming up. I truly do believe this. In last week's show, I talked about how Sam Pittman should rest his elite players going into next week. If you want to know why, I shared it all last week. Obviously, there was a huge discussion about should the game in Little Rock even be played. That was more so last week. Sam talked about it today. Now, we're going to talk about the players that should show out in the UAPB game. But the first thing, obviously, is if you're watching on YouTube or Twitter, we actually link to the Twitter account here. My beard looks weird. Okay. I have some kind of skin condition I'm dealing with right now. And I am not allowed to shave where these bumps are on my face. So it looks crazy. And my beard itches so much that I do have to shave the other part. So I know I look stupid. Hopefully, it'll get cleared up before you know it. Okay. We'll also talk about what happened on Friday, which was absolutely insane. I didn't think the reception would have been what it was, but the truth is, I have to protect what we have built together on Power Hour SEC. Now, I don't have the same size large live audience as others do, but I'm trying to build it. Once again, every Monday we will do an Arkansas live stream at 5 p.m. Central. The only asterisk here is it won't be next Monday because I'll be flying back from Las Vegas for my real job, which is covering LSU. So LSU, USC, and all that stuff. So this is also a real job. It's becoming a real thing. And that's why we have to protect what we have built, whether it's Arkansas fans or my Tennessee fans or my Auburn fans, Georgia fans, people that have supported me throughout the Southeastern Conference. But out of all the teams I'm probably most passionate about, I played high school football in Arkansas. I have a lot of friends in Fayetteville, so I take this very seriously. Now, I also want to ask you guys, do you believe Sam Pittman will survive 2024? Does he need to go to a bowl game? My view on this is if Sam Pittman does get to 6 wins, I believe he's going to keep his job. And I believe he should keep his job if they go to 6 wins, especially if they get to 7. And no doubt Sam Pittman should win Coach of the Year if he is to get to 8 wins, which I do not think they will get to this year. Okay. First comment flies in for Mr. Bloodline. He says they have to go to a bowl game for Sam Pittman to survive. Now, coming up here in about 20, we will talk to me, and this is just my opinion. I'll share with you why this is the case. A lot of you know who Trey Biddy is. A lot of you know who Andrew Hutchinson is. The big reporters in Arkansas. Obviously, Bob Holt is what a lot of people would consider the GOAT, not only here, but throughout SEC media. But the honest to God's truth is high school football reporting is so underrated. And I'm actually bringing on, to me, the best high school football reporter in the state of Arkansas. And I am going to grill him on a few different things. Okay. Now, I promise we will talk about what happened on Friday. I kind of want to move on from it because I want him and that site to succeed. I really do mean that. I promise you. I really, really, really do mean that. So we'll talk about that coming up. Now, I want to talk about football because that's why you guys are even here. I want to start with Jaquindon Jackson. Okay, he is the thumbnail image, and there is so much focus on TAYLEN GREEN and the pressure on TAYLEN GREEN because if you were to take a look at the rest of the SEC, there are a lot of rough backup QB situations throughout the SEC, but there might not be a tougher one than Arkansas's with Malachi Singleton and KJ Jackson, both of which are younger. You have a year 2 backup who's not played, and you also have a year 1 backup who has not played, and you moved on from someone that is a year 4 backup who's older and went back to North Carolina to potentially be a backup again. So I'm really excited to see how that's going to play out going into this next year. But there is so much pressure on TAYLEN GREEN to work it out this year as he's starting quarterback. I really cannot stress enough how good Jaquindon Jackson is. I know it's a little bit of an uncertain thing because you've not seen him play in the SEC, But this is a guy who played mostly quarterback early in his career, went to Utah and was insanely productive. He was also hurt a whole lot, played through injury, lost a teammate tragically that he was close to, and now he's at Arkansas, which is closer to home. He's good. And I do think you're in a somewhat similar situation as you were last year, where your number one guy is better than your number two and number three guy. But I do think Rashad Dubinion going into year three of his career is going to actually be a lot better. I do think Braylon Russell will be a very interesting piece. And because athletically he is so gifted at 250 pounds, he'll be able to give you something in this first year. So I truly do believe Jaquindon Jackson will be the MVP of this offense. That's how good I think he is. And obviously, a lot of it is going to come down to Carmona. A lot of it's going to come down to Patrick Custas or Custis. I always butcher his name. And then a lot of it is going to come down to the wide receiver play. Now, what I want to do is take a look at the depth chart that Arkansas released earlier today. And I want to go through this. And let's actually start on the defensive side of the football here. As you can see, Landon Jackson starting at defensive end. The number one backup is Quincy Rhodes, who I think is okay. So if Quincy Rhodes is your top backup going into year two, then Landon Jackson is going to play a lot. I think Quincy Rhodes is still a year away from being an SEC big-time player. Cam Ball is your starter as a redshirt sophomore. I think Cam Ball is very underrated throughout the SEC. I don't think he is really like an elite player, but he's only entering year three here, started 6 games last year. PFF likes him. I also like him as well. So Kiwi Rose is a backup. I think he's okay. Louisiana Tech transfer, obviously played for Arkansas last year. We'll see how he does. Eric Gregory, obviously very old, redshirt senior, one of a lot of these year 5 or year 6 guys that could be something for Arkansas going into next year. And Ian Gefford is his backup, the redshirt freshman. Now, this is where things get interesting, and I feel like this is their strongest two deep on the defensive line. Nico Davalier is a really, really, really good player. He'll also play the buck, as this points out. And Anton, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name. You guys have corrected me so many times. I think there is a real possibility that he could start by the end of the season. Anton is going to play a lot. And what I would also tell you on these two deeps is they are not set in stone. So I do think, let's just say Arkansas only runs a 3 deep at defensive end. I think Anton would be the top backup to Nico and Landon Jackson if that were to make sense, okay? Now we get to the second level of the defense, and let's take a few comments before we get there. Mr. Bloodline, I think Lou Haas can be the MVP. I totally agree with you there. Dizzle McTwizzle, good to see you. Oklahoma State is overrated. You're predicting Arkansas to start 5-0. Okay. Oklahoma State very well could get beat by Dakota State and the Jackrabbits. A juxtaposition between both of these teams. Arkansas is playing UAPB, which is the 127th ranked FCS team. And, well, Oklahoma State is playing by far the number 1 ranked FCS team in South Dakota. And that was a stat provided to your boy via Andrew Hutchinson. Please go give him a follow at NWA Hutch. Love me some Hutch. Always been a really good friend of mine. Let's go to Brad Spence. He is going to be your starter at one of the linebacker positions, and Xavier Sori will be the other starter. Okay. I do think this is a situation where a player by, and his name slips my mind, he's number 30, the transfer from Jacksonville State, I think could be a piece in here. Steven Dix, the transfer from Marshall, is a redshirt senior who will play a lot. And Anthony Switzer is also a redshirt senior. And this is one of these situations where they do the or treatment. Bradley Shaw, a freshman out of Hoover, Alabama, they give him a single-digit number, will also play. But I also think 30 will be a factor in here as well. You go to the defensive backfield. Marquise Robinson gets to start over Jaheim Singletary or Keon Stewart. Marquise, a transfer from South Alabama after their head coach, Kane Womack, went to Alabama to be the defensive coordinator. Okay. Singletary had a rough year for being a five-star Georgia transfer. Keon Stewart is a year 6 player out of TCU. We go to Hudson Clark, another one of these year 6 guys, and TJ Metcalf is his backup at freshman. I know some of you want Metcalf to start over Hudson Clark, and we'll see how that actually plays out. Okay. And then Jaden Johnson is backed up by Larry Worth. Okay. So there's 30 right there. He is listed here as a safety, so I guess I had him counted wrong. I would guess I was viewing him as a linebacker. Worth is extremely athletic at 6'4", 224. I think he can play some linebacker in some certain sub packages, so be on the lookout for him. But Jaden Johnson and Hudson Clark, I'm fine with starting both of them because they honestly have played the most. And one guy that has really played a lot better as of late is Selman Bridges. He is listed as a backup behind Jalen Braxton, who had an up and down season last year. Selman Bridges is a true freshman, while Jalen Braxton played quite a bit, but was able to maintain his redshirt, according to this graphic. Danico Slaughter, the transfer out of Tennessee. Obviously, I'm very familiar with Danico, as Tennessee is a team that that I cover quite a bit on Power Hour SEC. He's good. He's a really, really, really solid player. You always have to be a little concerned, though. Obviously, if he was good, why would he leave Tennessee to come over here? Well, that's a good question, especially considering Tennessee secondary going into next year doesn't look all that great. They had quite a few of transfers leave. I think it says more about Tennessee, if anything, right? They kept their defensive coordinator, and they still had a lot of people leave. But it is interesting. Danico Slaughter will start, and Tevis Metcalf will be his top backup. So what I want to see from the comment section here is, who do you think? Okay. Who do you think should be starting and is listed as a backup? And or who do you think will play a whole lot on this defense? Is there someone else that's not listed? I will say, as an Arkansas fan, it is a little, and I mean just a little bit concerning, but if you actually watched any of our practice breakdowns and any of our film breakdowns, it's important to note that I have talked a lot about Charlie Collins, about how he's going to be more of a year 2 player. The spring, and once again, it is just spring, and you always have to be more you have to be more protective of true freshmen. It's really difficult to play true freshman ball. I thought the spring reps were a mixed bag. I also think he can vastly improve as the season moves on. And look, I will also say this. Selman Bridges, his spring tape wasn't the absolute best, and he got the rare 2 title treatment from me, which meaning I had 2 different videos where he was a title of the video and in the thumbnail of one of them. That takes a lot. That means you are doing something to where I have to talk about you publicly. Okay. This has been the most popular pick. TJ Metcalf, number 18, who's made quite a few plays in spring. So I will say I had a pretty reliable source say that Metcalf is going to play a lot. I do question that, though, because Hudson Clark and Johnson have played a lot. And I don't know if T. Will is going to want them off the field because, well, they know the system. So we'll see. Paulie says, Anton, I can see it too. I can really see it too. All right. Pooh Bear says KJ went 10 of 17, 195, 3 touchdowns against UAPB in 2021 October. So TAYLEN could get the same going into next year. Okay. All right. Switzer. Okay. I can get down with that. Let's go to the offensive side of the football here and take a look at the 2 deep that Sam Pittman decided to roll with. Okay. So no real surprises on this 2 deep here, other than Monty Harrison getting the nod as the top receiver behind Andrew Armstrong. All right. Monty, of course, 29 years of age. Andrew Armstrong, also older, right? He's a year 6 guy. Isaiah Satania going into year 3 gets the start over Isaac Tesla. Obviously, last year that was flipped. Tesla has lost some favor in the pecking order of this wide receiver room. But even though he started all 12 games, I still think he'll play a lot. And one more thing about Isaac Tesla is that he plays a lot of punt team and special teams as well. We go to left tackle. Fernando Carmona will be one of the most important players on this team. His top backup, Imarion Harris. Obviously, we did a lot of film breakdowns on Imarion in the spring, and he actually played pretty well in some of these matchups. And then we get to left guard. It's interesting that Patrick, I butcher his name all the time. He is listed as an or with Imarion Harris. So it looks as if LSU, Arkansas is in a decision of whether or not they should start Patrick or Imarion. We get to the center position. Addison Nichols gets the start. No real surprise coming over from Tennessee. 14 games in 2 seasons. Okay. New center. This has been kind of a weird position. Obviously, Ricky Stromberg, up and down year last year, but that was obviously one of Arkansas's better offensive linemen. Interesting, Joshua Braun stays at right guard. Earned second-team All-SEC from AP after starting all 12 games in his first year. Okay. Tykees Crawford, obviously a very up-and-down career, is listed as a top backup. And this is where things get very weird. Keyshawn Blackstock is your top right tackle, transferring over from Michigan State. So your true starting offensive lineman of guys that you actually brought in is one guy, Patrick, the left guard. Okay. Every other one is a transfer. So it shows you that Arkansas has missed on a lot, that Arkansas high school football recruiting has been very, very up and down. I will say number 78, Joe Moore, that is the best name you can have as an offensive lineman, as they've named the top offensive line in the country award after Joe Moore. Okay. So Paulie says Patrick will be sitting out with his back. So Imarion will start at left guard. Okay. Then we get to TAYLEN GREEN, starting quarterback. Malachi Singleton will be your backup, as we've already discussed. I found it interesting that Rashad Dubinion listed as the starter. I know Jaquindon Jackson is the guy. He will be the guy this year. I hope he doesn't play at all versus UAPB, though. I really, really hope not, because he has a vast injury history, and that Little Rock turf can be very, very unforgiving. Then we get to tight end, Luke Haas and Varkey's Gums listed as the top backup. No Ty Washington on the oars. Obviously, Ty Washington has been very hurt in his career. And no real surprise here, Tyrone Broden starting at the other wide receiver spot. And Jordan Anthony listed as the top backup there. So the James kid, who has had some, Dazin James, who has had some really good practices, gets passed up by Jordan Anthony and Monty Harrison. Very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. So let's discuss potential injuries a little bit later. I probably should have looked at the injury report before I started. I really didn't. I got pretty busy today. And I normally wait until Sam Pittman does a press conference, and he did do it. And I'll be honest, I missed most of it. But I'll tell you this. It's a lot of coach speak as you get ready for Thursday. All right. Now, this has been a question that has been asked quite a bit. Okay. Do I have any betting advice going into next year for Arkansas or any SEC team? And I am actually going to give you one pick, one lock. And I was actually going to save this for my Tennessee video because every year I give out my SEC locks, my favorite over-unders and stuff. My favorite play going into next year is the alternate Arkansas win total. I have them over 9.5 wins, plus 5,000. I'm kidding. So, my lock. All right. Tennessee quarterback, Nico Imealeava. I know I butchered that as well. I have him going over his passing yard total of, I think it was 2,500. I probably should know that number. I think he is a minimum 3,000 yard passer. Okay. So let me actually, I had my buddy, and I love him. You should follow him, Vern Funquist on Twitter. And his real name is Chris Marler. Okay. So I've known Marler for a while now. And Nico is at 2,550 yards and a half. Okay. I think it's a lot to go over that total. And I'll share with you why. Because I know a lot of you have these betting apps. Tennessee's secondary is not great. So that means that Tennessee could be in a lot of these shootout kind of games. You also got to remember, Tennessee lost some of their best running backs to the NFL, including Jalen Wright. All right. So their running back room, I don't think will be as good as it was as the year before. Now, their run blocking still should be great. Dylan Sampson, their starting running back, is from Louisiana, by the way. He should still be fine. But still, I don't think that their running back group as a whole is as good as what their wide receivers will be going into next year. I think Tennessee's wide receiver room lacks a Kyron Lacey type of superstar in that group, but they still should be really good. And I think Nico is going to be in a few shootouts where he'll have a few 350 kind of games, right? He was also by far my number one rated quarterback in the class. So my natural high school opinion of him was really, really, really high. So it's just one of those things. All right. Now, I wanted to make sure I got that in there. Leslie says, "What's up with all these gray hairs, man? Too much stress." Huh? You even say that when I have a hat. I was shocked that you were able to see that. So you know what the funny thing was is I actually had not as much, but I had a lot of gray hair by the time I was 21. Right? It was a kind of weird thing. Now, we should be getting to our guest here in just a moment. Let me go to this. So I'll talk a little bit about the video on Friday because I want to keep this mostly Arkansas stuff. So I really do mean it. I was going to let everything go. I really was just going to let it go. Didn't really care at all because it's practice videos. I won't be doing any more practice breakdowns. And I did do a third practice breakdown, like I said in the video. And I was just going to never use their footage again. And I probably won't ever use their footage again. Okay. But, you know, I decided, hey, let's just move on from it all. And I got hit with those things and I didn't like that. And this is my main message so we can just move on from it. It could have been Mason. It could have been anyone, right? As I've gotten older, all right, and I have been around more powerful people that have bigger followings and so on and so on, okay? When you're around other people and you ask for favors or you bring up something that is discomforting, be clear in your intentions. Be very, very, very clear. Don't blindside people. All right. Just don't do it, whether it's a business deal or anything like that. That applies for anything. All right. And that's really what irked me is you weren't straight up with me. Just be straight up with people. That's all I ask. Okay. And I have never done this. And I will also tell you, and I didn't say this in the video, I had a somewhat similar situation happen with my LSU channel roughly a year and a half or 2 years ago. And if you're in this industry, there are a lot of beefs that you never even hear about, that never sees the light of day. But the only reason I decided to really go through it is because there was a bigger picture message that I wanted to get out to everyone. Okay. And it's number one, fair use guidelines are fair use guidelines. And then number two, you shouldn't steal other people's stuff. Okay. Like you should never just copy someone else's stuff and Like, you shouldn't go to anyone's site and just re-upload their videos and get clicks that way, right? You shouldn't do that. But a lot of people do, and they make a lot of money off of that. But the bottom line is you should support everyone, right? And what's really weird about it from my angle is I am not really, and I might think of it this way because YouTube is a very much zero sum game, right? There's only so many videos and attention and things that people can watch. But yes, I do Arkansas stuff, but there are plenty of people that only do Arkansas, right? That's all they do. That is who your main competition is. I am not your main competition, right? You should not be scared of, and if that's the case, he may be scared or he may not be. I don't know. I don't know what his intentions were. But if for some reason that were the case, I do an Arkansas show with a Joe Burrow painting in the backdrop. Okay. And it's clear who that is. I mostly have an LSU following. That's it. Like, you should not, that shouldn't be like your main concern at all. So that's where I am with all of it. I am certainly open to talking to anyone about this, showing anything, showing all of my stuff to anyone, how everything went down. But like I said, my favorite Arkansas Twitter account is someone that's at Hogbeat. It is. And so I'm still going to, you know, I'm not going to unfollow that guy or not look at his tweets anymore because he is just really that good. But yeah, that's about where I am right now. Okay. There you go. Bot's got gray hair. You think I have the best podcast on the Hog Network right now? Well, thank you. I really do appreciate that. I really do. I will tell you that I don't. There are a lot of people that do really, really good stuff. I'm very biased because they're my friends now. Woo Pig podcast is really good. This next guy coming up here in just a few seconds, he also has been around Best of Arkansas Sports, right? BOAS, Andrew Hutchinson, Evan DeMuro. Those guys have been two of my really good friends in media for a very, very, very long time. What I would tell you, though, is John Neighbors is a friend. Not like a super close friend, but I like John. I've always respected John. We have a lot of mutual friends. But I will tell you this. Yes, I'm an LSU graduate. Yes, I am from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But I played high school football in Arkansas. I care a lot about high school football. It's a big reason why I'm bringing on my next guest. I also care a lot about Arkansas athletics. I think people at times underrate nationally and in the SEC what Nolan Richardson accomplished at Arkansas. And I also said this in a Twitter thread recently. I don't think Arkansas fans should ever fire Dave Van Horn. I'm serious. I know that sounds very controversial, and, well, he can't win the big one. I know a lot of people disagree with that. Dave Van Horn, ask anyone that knows anything about baseball. List your 10 best college baseball coaches. Dave Van Horn's going to be on 90% of those lists. I swear to you. Go ask. I'm not the best college baseball guy, okay? But they'll tell you Dave Van Horn is the best. So you got it good right now with, you got Bobby back on the OC. You got freaking Coach Calipari. You have it good. All of my closest friends, my best man at my wedding lives in Conway, all right? My other close friends who I talk to every single day in a group chat live minutes from campus. They have nieces and nephews to me, or they call me uncle or whatever, or they view me that way, all right? So even though I'm an LSU fan, I do care about Arkansas. I do. Okay. I really, really, really do. And I'm always going to shoot you straight. And I feel like it's a little bit different because I'm not a fan, that I could be just a little like it doesn't bother me as much if things go awry. Okay. Oh, you're in Conway as well? Well, we could do dinner sometime. Okay. So there you go. All right. Bobby, I appreciate it. Now, coming up next, the most underrated, and I really do mean it. This guy did something truly spectacular that I thought couldn't be done in the state of Arkansas. And we'll talk about that coming up right after this.
I think joy and happiness and doing things you like is important.
My favorite thing is sports cards. When I'm not on YouTube, I am building my collection. And when I started, I wish there was a sports card strategy show.
He wasn't necessarily going to be a first-round pick before all this Heisman buzz. Now they're talking about him being a top 5 pick.
Paul Hickey and the team at nooffseason.com personally helped build my Jaden Daniels collection, and they're looking to do the same for you. Just check them out on social media or nooffseason.com. Kyle Sutherland, my man, high school football reporter extraordinaire. Now, before we talk about high school football in the state of Arkansas, you put together a media day. So you got to talk to basically every coach in the state of Arkansas, and you did it in honor of a friend. So let people know what you did and more about your friend who you honored, who was also a big Arkansas high school football reporter.
Well, Carter, first off, it's great to catch up. It's been quite a while since we've talked, so I really appreciate you having me on. I appreciate those kind words. I don't know if all of that is true, at least the extraordinaire part and all that. I very much appreciate the kind words, but well, what you're talking about is of course Big Miller Football Media Days, and we held that at First Community Bank, a state-of-the-art facility in Little Rock, Arkansas, on Chenal Parkway. I'll give it a few plugs there. And we did it for 3 days, and we featured 64 teams. Now, we didn't have a lot from from the northwest part of the state. Now, we understand that. I want to throw this in there. We understand travel is far for some of these teams. So we were very happy the fact that there were certain parts that we might not have gotten, but we got people from the south, the northeast. So hopefully maybe to kind of keep things, as far as adding more teams, maybe we can look at some virtual things and all that. We'll of course get to that when the time comes. But yeah, really where it all started, it was a very successful event, of course. Like I said, 64 teams. We had 65 scheduled, and 2 or 3 just due to certain circumstances had to drop, and we added a couple. But Kevin Miller, who's known very well in the Central Arkansas, he's known statewide for basketball, mostly a little bit of football. But last October, we did a basketball media days. It was a 2-day event, and Kev had actually planned that. And then we were like, okay, well, we need to continue this on into football. Then we'll make it an annual thing, maybe eventually do spring sports if that ends up working out. So Kev actually passed away in February. So right as soon as he passed, that was one of the first things we talked about was, okay, what were some things that we can do in his honor? This was one of the first things that we talked about. So once we got the venue set, we had already had the basketball media days at First Community Bank the previous October. So we got with them, kind of worked a few things out, and then we announced it, and in came all the signups to fill out those slots. And now we're heading to First Community Bank again, October 22nd through 24th for basketball media day. So we're going from 2 days last year to 3 days this year.
Yeah, so before we get back into the Razorbacks, I want people to understand why I view you so highly. Because if, let's just say, 10 Arkansas football media members don't go cover the Razorback games, well, guess what? I'm still going to figure out what happens in those games, okay? The #1 reporters throughout the state, I'm not just talking about you, I'm talking about anyone, are the high school football reporters. Because even with the internet and Facebook Lives, I still remember Fearless Friday back in the day.
Yeah.
That's a throwback, right?
Yeah.
It's still hard as hell to get Arkansas high school football information. So people like you, people like Luke Matheson, our mutual friend, Nate Olson, that actually go out there. Tony Burns, obviously, is my favorite because, he's South Arkansas. But what you do is impressive, right? So before we get into like where people can find your stuff, I think a lot of people are focused mostly on the Archer brothers, right? Yeah. So they play at Greenwood, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So give people an insight. I know there's a younger brother that plays linebacker, and then there's an older brother that plays quarterback. So are they on Arkansas's radar, and how do you feel about them as players?
Yeah, so Cash Archer is a senior. He's the older brother. He's the defensive line. He's moved to linebacker. That's his natural position that he's going to play in college. And Kane is the junior. Now, when Kane was in like 7th, 8th grade, he was blowing up. And at the time, they didn't, they don't have official rankings for that young of kids, but he was pretty much, the next big thing. And he still is. He might not be the number one official quarterback in the 26 class. But Carter, I called every single major game for Greenwood last year. Of course, that being both Little Rock Christian games and the Pulaski Academy game. Kid is the real deal. He was the best quarterback that I saw all year, and I covered Walker White. I covered some of the state's best. And I covered all the state's best. I called some of those games. Well, I also look over on that defensive side, and I look at Cash Archer, who is still criminally underrated, in my opinion. He was the most dominant defender of any team and I go somewhere different just about. Sometimes we do teams, 2 or 3 times a year, but I went to multiple different places and he was the most dominant defender that I covered. So, excuse me, him on defense, Cash, the older brother, and then Kane on offense. I mean, they're just the leaders of what's going to be arguably the number 1 team overall in Arkansas. I think them or Parkview probably holds that title going into the year. But as far as the Razorbacks go, so I did a piece, talked about Best of Arkansas Sports a second ago, did a piece for Evan and Hutch about a month ago. And the initial angle of it was really just to kind of get an update on Kane's recruitment and also touch on Cash as well. Because at the time, Kane had just announced that he was 4 schools in particular he was interested in. Well, the conversation eventually got to, I was talking to their dad, Adam Archer. The conversation eventually got to, well, if Kane ends up, or if Cash ends up getting an offer from the Razorbacks, then that chance quadruples Kane becomes a Razorback.
Oh, okay.
Arkansas was one of those. It was Arkansas, SMU, UCF, and Minnesota. So all Arkansas, you got Drake Lindsay from Fayetteville at Minnesota, Gus obviously at UCF, and then Rhett Lashley at SMU, and then Arkansas. So that's where I was like, okay, this story just took a completely different angle. So Adam, I respect the fire out of Adam. I think he is, some people I've seen him referred to as Todd Marinovic's dad 2.0. I've seen him referred to
Adam who?
Adam Archer. That's Kane and Cash's dad.
Okay, yeah.
All I've experienced with Adam Archer is a dad who deeply loves his boys and told them, here's the deal. If you want to succeed, I will do everything in my power, financially, whatever it may be, to make you succeed or to help you succeed. But here's what it's going to take. And those kids bought into that. And to me, and now Greenwood's just a town that's just built different. I mean, I'm sure you being from Arkansas, they're just built different there. And like those kids are already going to work their tails off. But when you look at Cash and Kane, they see the game to me different. They play different, and they're just a step ahead. Kane in particular at quarterback, he's got the arm and all that, but his smarts. And you being a film guy that breaks down film like you do, I mean, you would see it. It's just right that he's got that it factor, if I can use that term. But the Razorbacks, kind of that's the long-winded answer to who those guys are and kind of where they stand with the Razorbacks is, at least as of a month ago when we published that story for Best of Arkansas Sports, it was really dependent on what happens with Cash's recruitment. If he gets an offer from Arkansas, then he's likely going to go and Kane will follow him. Now, I will add to that, there's been a lot of questions of why in the world won't they do it? Well, they haven't seen him much at linebacker. That's the thing. They haven't seen, there's not really any film. He was great on the edge last year, like 29 tackles for loss. I think 19, 20 sacks. I mean, he put up astronomical numbers almost, but that's the thing is they want some film at linebacker, and Adam has talked about how they understand that. And so that's kind of their story right now. Just 2 phenomenal talents that just kind of remain to be seen as far as what's going to happen with the Razorbacks.
One of my favorite things, all right, this is going to sound so weird. All right. I love Arkansas high school football because there's not a whole lot of big time recruits. Okay. So take this from someone from Louisiana who played high school football in Arkansas. There's so many big Louisiana recruits, as you know, and they sometimes become like bigger than the team. What I love about Arkansas high school football is it's never really about that because there's maybe 2 or 3 of those guys like in the state every year. So I really do think, and I highly recommend everyone do this. Go to at least one high school football game anywhere in the state. Support the local economy because there's a whole lot of moms and pops and stuff like that all come together as a community. It's one of the last few things. But guess what happened, Kyle? Guess what happened? We get a high school transfer portal. Okay. So
I knew that was coming.
I challenged you on this on Facebook. All right. And someone told me that and look, kids have always been transferring. Kids have always been transferring from school to school. Okay. But someone under my comment said there was at least 500 kids that transferred from school to school strictly for football reasons, to go to another program or whatever. So give people an insight. Is this an actual real thing? And do you think it's a good thing?
So the transfer portal is unofficial. Now that's just kind of something I think that started really around, people have been talking about that really since kind of the politics have changed and everything. School choice has been around for a little bit, but since the recent politics have changed and all that, but transfer portal was thrown around quite a bit at media days. And I would say that it is definitely, it's a real, again, it's not an official portal, but yes, it's a real thing. It's happening. I mean, it's all pretty much just an open game to an extent. And I'm very careful how I say that because yes, I mean, it's, when we were in high school, Carter, I think you're like a year or two. I graduated in 08, you were 07.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're about the same age. I knew we were around that. And when we were in high school, it was happened and but it was kind of one of those that it's like you talked about in private. Like for instance, quick story here, Joe Adams, one of the greatest Razorbacks, especially in the 21st century, greatest punt returner. And, one up there is the greatest punt returners of all time. He came to CAC my junior. I went to CAC, graduated there. Okay. He's in the same age group or same class that I was. Like the first day of two-a-days, we're in there lifting weights. Joe Adams comes in. We're like, oh, we've heard of this guy. He'd been at Parkview, and he was like the sophomore of the year or whatever. Well, we go out on the field. We're like, holy crap, this guy's really good. Well, then, we obviously see what he does in those 2 years at CAC. Well, just imagine if we would have had Twitter at that time. Imagine if we would have had social media. And I tell people that this was in 2000s. This was in August of 2006. Okay. Before my junior year. So it's just changed so much. So it's crazy how though it has changed really in the last, not even 5 years, really 2 or 3, especially this year, is because, not only we were talking about Greenwood, you saw a kid go from Newport briefly to Greenwood. Now he's back at Newport. So not only are they moving, they're moving just in crazy droves. You've got kids
tell
going.
Me this. What's the main reason? Is there money? Is it playing? What is it?
Well, I would say probably the biggest thing, I can't really comment on it because I haven't seen anything. I have not heard or seen any kind of proof of any kind of money. Now, I would not be shocked. I have reason to believe that that's probably happening or has happened. But I will say this, that I think that a lot of it is that it's a grass is greener on the other side. It's a pride thing. It's like what you see with travel basketball or travel baseball, travel softball. These sometimes coach might promise a kid. Now, sometimes it is a good thing. I will say that because you look at it as an Isaac, and I know we'll maybe talk some Razorbacks. You look at an Isaac Tesla, and at that particular time, COVID really kind of screwed his recruitment. Right? He was I think a wing T quarterback or something. So he goes and plays receiver at D2, and he's obviously got the athletic ability to play at the Power 5, now Power 4 level. Isaac Tesla is a perfect example of why the transfer portal is a good thing, right?
Well, Kyle, we're talking I get.
But we're talking to college, right? But I'm saying,
from a smaller school to a bigger school. But Kyle,
sure.
But you're. And I don't mean to interrupt you, but you're there every Friday night,
right?
High school football is about the community, right? I know it's a little bit different because I lived in a small town and there wasn't really any big high schools around, and we still had guys going from the 6A school in my town going to like the 2A schools or whatever. It's a little bit different, but I like to think of high school football as playing for the pride, playing for the school, and then college could be a little bit more about business, right? And I just can't imagine a high school coach who has to drive the bus to a game on Friday night, make sure that they even have enough numbers. Every high school coach I talk about is, Carter, I don't care about scheme. I just want to make sure I have at least 22 guys so I don't have to go play 7-man or whatever. High school transfer portal bothers me. I'll just say it.
I agree with you. No, I wholeheartedly agree with you, Carter. And like I said, Joe Adams came in. Now DJ Williams also moved in from Texas. That was a different story. His family got out of an abusive situation. There's those kind of certain instances like that. But you and I, like you said, you grew up in El Dorado, but it's still a small area, and
Right.
we grew up in just that town where it's like, okay, man, you play for who you play for, you work your butts
team.
off. Yeah, I mean, you work your butts off with your brothers, and that's kind of how it goes. And so I'm not necessarily against like kids going somewhere. Like, for instance, if there's just a situation where it's just legit not good for them, where a coach is running a system where it's not, I think there are those special cases. Because I mean, you or I, we put ourselves in that situation. We're going to do what's best for ourselves and our family. But overall, no, I don't like it. I don't like the direction it's going. And frankly, Carr, like, I've become more interested in, and I know this is a whole other topic, but I've kind of become more interested in Division II football, because you talk about the state of Arkansas, you look at Harding, you look at Washington Baptist, you look at, I mean, it's just more fun. You GAC, you're playing for the fun of the game.
Yes.
You're not dealing with all this. I covered the transfer portal for Evan and Hutch with Best of Arkansas Sports. And I mean, man, some of the responses that nothing super crazy, but I was literally told by a transfer, I won't say who it was, but I was told by a transfer that did not end up going to Arkansas, it just depends on who gives me the most money. I was literally this dude. I'm not any kind of. I am a small time reporter. I'm not Pete Thamel. I'm not Kirk Herbstreit. I'm not Brandon Marcello.
Right.
I'm just some random. And he's telling me this.
God.
Like,
I agree. I am super biased though, because I have my next door neighbor starts for Washington Baptist, and he's damn good. And dude, they play good ball. Now you could tell they're not Power 5 guys.
Sure.
But I kind of wish sometimes Arkansas college football fans got a little bit more into the GAC, because, well,
it's our kids that are playing out there that are thriving. Look at, Braden Jay breaking 73-yard runs on ESPN.
Yes, and Harding winning a national championship running the triple. Dude, it was so fun. I remember my neighbor who played Harding was like, God, I hated playing them. And I was like, do you know how many old school football people were so excited to watch a team win a national title in 2023 running the damn triple option? Are you freaking kidding me?
Shameless plug to Hooten's Arkansas football. If you haven't read this year's edition, they wrote a great story about Tony Wheaton, who he drives from, I think it's Bismarck, which is around the Arkadelphia area. He drives every single day to Harding, and he's financially, he's retired, but he's financially set, but he just enjoys helping coach that team. He's the one that implemented that wing T when Ronnie Huckabee decided to make the change. My former coach, Tim Perry at CAC, he was the offensive coordinator there in 2008, 2009. And they were 3-7. They weren't very good, but they had a top 5, top 10 offense. They were spreading it out like crazy. And then they were like, okay, if we really want to win big, then we're going to have to run the football. And it's definitely worked out for them.
Yeah. Do you have, and obviously you don't just do high school football, you do it all. Do you have any Arkansas Razorback takes that you think would be a little bit different than consensus?
Pretty much the takes that I have are the ones that I would say more so on the negative side. Now, look, I think you look at Arkansas last, it's pretty clear that they had a lot of guys on the team that maybe didn't like each other too much, and you had a lot of those one possession games you should have won. I think bringing Petrino in certainly will help you as far as finishing games, but more than anything, having a coach with head coaching experience on the sidelines again. Barry Odom left. You did not have that. Enos was terrible and up in the box. And then, Kenny Guyton, I love Kenny Guyton, loved what he did at Arkansas, but it's just, Sam Pittman's just, I think we've seen what kind of in-game coach that he is. He's just not very good at it. Let's call it what it is. So that's my whole thing right there is I think that Petrino being on, when that news broke, I think it was last Tuesday, I was singing praises, man. I figured he probably would be, because that just seems like, being a head coach for as long as he was, you would think that he would feel comfortable there. But I'm really worried about special teams. I'm still concerned about the offensive line. I'm worried about special teams. That's
Okay. Go deeper into details. Is it kicker? Is it punter? I know Cam Little.
Yeah. Well, Cam Little's gone. So there's my cute little daughter there in my cover photo. But
there you go.
Yeah, and I think I've actually got this same exact fishing hoodie on that I do in my profile pic.
Yeah, there you go.
Cam Little, anytime you lose a kicker that's going to be a top 32 in the NFL as a rookie, it's definitely hard to lose. Max Fletcher got a lot of flack that, some of it I don't think he deserved, but I mean, when you've got, now I'll be honest with you, Carter, I kind of feel like a hypocrite saying this because some of their names slip my mind now. But when you had the kicking issues that you had now the spring was a long time ago. But just kind of, I've learned, and I'm sure you're the same way, just listening to all these coaches' interviews through the years like I have, you kind of learn to read between the lines a little bit. And I think that's maybe just some of the things that they're not saying about special teams is concerning a little bit to me. Yeah. So I think that's probably where I'm at the most. It's like, okay, well, yeah, we might score some points. I like TAYLEN GREEN a lot. And I think that the defense is actually going to be not great, but good. I really like Travis Williams a lot. So that's kind of but it's like, okay, well, we get in those close games like Arkansas had so many of. Can you try? Because you're not gonna have a guarantee, at least to my knowledge, you're not gonna have a guaranteed guy that's going to connect from 40 or 50 like you did with Cam. So that's probably my biggest concern is the special teams right now and the offensive line, because I don't have any reason to believe that they're going to be much better.
So I used to do like some of the stuff that you did when I was doing daily radio in Arkansas, when you would interview like all the old high school football coaches.
Yeah.
I highly recommend everyone go listen to that. It's really cool if that is like your thing. It's not really my thing, but I used to do these interviews. And they are fun, like hearing the high school coaches' stories. And you can watch and listen to all of them. Go to Kyle's Twitter account. You can learn more about that. Natural State Sports is where they do some of the best high school football reporting for any state. Like I keep up with Louisiana high school football coverage, and they do a really, really, really good job. But I wish there were more sites just mostly dedicated to high school football reporting. I mean, look, I had no idea that there would be someone out there that would be talking about an assistant coaching job at Harding Academy. That's how deep this high school reporting is on the Natural State Sports Network. So, Kyle, I really do mean it. I'm not just blowing smoke. You don't know me that well, but I do take sports media and people that do really elite stuff very seriously, and you do it. And you put the hustle and you put the work in, and I really appreciate you, man. So I'm going to let you have the final word. You could say whatever you want. It could be an Arkansas take. It could be a take about Game of Thrones. It could be whatever. The floor is yours, my friend.
No, and I greatly, I'm truly humbled, to hear that because, they always talk about every time that somebody gets maybe a compliment or two thrown at them, you're as good as the people around you. And I truly mean that. I've had a chance to, that really, some of these people, you think about Wes Moore and Steve Sullivan, just the ones that we grew up watching. These are guys that I grew up idolizing because I wanted to be in this profession. I kind of just, and once I realized how not good I was at sports, I was more effort than I was talent. Yeah. I knew that I wanted to either coach or I wanted to do media. And I realized pretty quickly that I cannot deal with the parents in coaching mainly. That's pretty much the main thing with it. But no, man, I'm just these guys these same ones that I looked up to or have taken me under their wing. And now I call games with them. Now I do, Wes Moore combined his Fearless Friday preview with our media days. So cool. It really, that was really cool. And so we've got a great team at Natural State Sports. We do some broadcasting of games. We do some of the games as well. We've got 5 networks, including Parkview Patriots, the back-to-back 5A champions. So, you can check. You pulled up the site, and we'll have more content on there since we're in the school year now. But most of our stuff is actually on the Natural State Sports Network Facebook page. Well, that's where we post some of it. Like if we don't have time to do a quick story, we'll post something on there real quick. But we're on there, real active on Twitter, X. But no, Carter, I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate the kind words. I'm just thankful, man. I lived in Texas for 3 years and lived in San Antonio, and that's kind of where I started some things, got to know some people. But I've never had the desire to go national. I've never really had the desire to go super big time. I just want to cover Arkansas. I want to bring exposure to this state, and I've had the great opportunity to do that through multiple outlets. So, again, I appreciate you bringing me on, letting me talk about it a little bit, and all the kind words.
I'm just glad Kevin Kelly's back, man. He's a yellow jacket, man. Now I hate him.
I don't like to, but I did break that story, and that was pretty cool. You
had the scoop?
I did. Yeah. No, that was probably, and I don't, I don't.
The scoop?
I did on that. And that's probably the first time that I actually said that out loud. I did. Now, but I will give, Let me also say too, I do have to give credit to my old boss, Nate Olson. He actually had a good bit of that too, but I did go to the meeting. I went to the meeting, the board meeting, and had already had the story written. So he was a big part of that, some of his connections, but yes, we were the ones that broke it. Yeah.
Yeah. Nate's a good friend of mine as well. But hat tip to you and Nate, man, because he actually is like the one, like, huge Arkansas high school football coach. Now, I'm biased. I think Scott Reed's better. Come after me all you want. I will fist
Scott, you've got an argument. Scott Reed's a hell of a coach, man. I love Scott.
Jeff Williams is up there. Scooter Register is up there. I know I'm biased. My guy Nick Vaughn at Camden building something, but no, Kevin Kelly's obviously, for those that don't know, the international fourth down sensation who Bill Belichick loves dearly. I didn't know you broke that. I remember seeing your link to it, but I thought it was one of those situations where Sheridan released a story and
I think that's kind of the way, because Coach Kelly, I later found out, he didn't even know that it was going to break that night. He just thought they were having the meeting and they were going to officially. Well, his wife was feeding their newborn granddaughter that was like a week old. So she's like got the baby in one hand, got her phone in the other, scrolling Facebook, and she's like, Kevin. And yeah, so I mean, but yeah, no, I had it. I went down there, man, and I mean, that was one. I mean, we knew that was going to be, a pretty monumental story, right? We knew that was going to be something that was going to be pretty popular, and so I went down there and I talked to the school board. I said, "Hey, here's what I'm trying to do. Once you guys announce it, you're announcing it to the public. Am I good to push? Like normally, once it's public, I don't even ask. I just publish. But I'm like, are we good to hit the button?" And they're like, yeah, for sure. So as soon as they said, yeah, so I've sent it over. Nate was actually out. I think he had some dinner or something that night. So I was talking to his boss. I was texting back and forth, and we were discussing. I'm like, hey, hit that button right now, because I didn't have the power. I had access to the website. I couldn't publish.
Oh, okay.
So I was in text. I was texting with our guy in Portland, Oregon. That's where the headquarters were. So. That was a wild night, man. My phone continuously went off for the next 24 hours. I would say that, and when Buck James went to Conway, that was probably the most busy my phone's ever been.
One day in the middle of the off season, if I'm still going to do Arkansas football live streams, I want to just talk like all these crazy Arkansas high school stories, because the truth is you can actually learn a little bit more about them, because actual coaching searches at the Division I, yeah, those stories are juicy, but it's so airtight. Yeah. High school football, yeah, you know how this works. There are so many juicy stories about how these things actually.
You just got to figure out which one is correct. That's the mystery.
Yes, and it's harder actually to be accurate on those stories, because there's not like an agent you can run to confirm it. To where if they say if it's not happening, they'll just say no. If it is happening, they'll just not say anything at all. High school is just different. It's just different. So I highly recommend everyone go check out Kyle's work, and we'll talk soon, man.
All right, Carter. Always appreciate it, man. Good catching up.
All right, buddy. Cheers. Kyle Sutherland. I told you this guy is extremely, extremely talented. I really do mean it. There might not be a more versatile guy that a lot of people don't really know, right? This guy loves Arkansas football more than anyone. Luke Matheson is also a really good high school football reporter. I'm really biased towards Luke. I've known Luke for a very, very long time, so make sure you check it out. He is more Red Wolves than anything else, okay? Now, in the next 5 minutes, I do have another show I have to go do, but because we went a little long with our guests, I will answer any Arkansas-related question. It could be about the controversy on Friday. If you guys have any questions about that, we'll happily get to that. I'm ready to move on from it. If I really wanted to gain a gazillion more followers, I would talk about that feud until whenever. But you guys know, I don't want this channel to be about me. I want this channel to be about us. And the funny thing about it is the 94 of you that are watching right now, half on YouTube, half on Twitter, you know as much, potentially more about Arkansas than I do. So I need your expertise. You follow the team closely. I cover all the teams in the NFL on my NFL channel, cover all the teams in the SEC, and then I have to cover LSU every single day. All right. So there you go. Philip Fulmer. Actually, yes, he signed Slick Shelley from way back when. Osceola. Who's the coach from Osceola? Oh, so you're going to go watch Kevin Kelly this weekend? There you go. Rico, appreciate it. Yeah, Paulie, look, I can't say that I love the Hogs, but I love the state of Arkansas. I do. If Arkansas football wins, guess what? My buddies, which there are a lot of them that own businesses in Fayetteville, they do better. So I'm all about that. Okay. Now, something else. BT, what's good? That's one of my LSU guys. At Carter the Power is where you can connect with me on Twitter. If you are a golf fan, if any of you play golf, hit me up at Carter the Power. I have something interesting that I would like to share with you. I'm somewhat into the golf culture in Arkansas, even though I do not golf and I've not picked up a club on a golf course since I was, I think, 6 or 7 years old. Okay. Let's see. Let's get a few more in here. I think the biggest story not being talked about is that Patrick Kustis is about to lose his job. I don't know if it's losing his job or if he's hurt, right? Like I said, I should have studied the injury report before I jumped on here. That was my fault. I had a really crazy day. You golf at the Maumelle Country Club all the time. Well, send me a message at Carter the Power on Twitter because I guess you could say I'm a golf consultant now. So you play golf as well, Paulie? Okay, there you go. And we're gonna test this out with the golf thing. Okay, we'll take one or two more here, and then we can go from there. Yeah, hit me up. Hit me up on Twitter at Carter the Power, or you can shoot me an email, powerscc@gmail.com. Now, I will address the practice videos 1 and 2. I don't know if I'm going to delete them or not. I think this is the last day I can delete them. I might just go ahead and delete them, even though I think I really don't know what's going on with all of this, because Mason never actually reached out to me since the video. I'm serious. Unless I missed something, he's not. So I might just go ahead and delete them because I don't really need them anymore. But today was the last day I could delete them before I got the copyright strikes. So I'm just going to go ahead. I might just delete one of them and just live with one strike if it were to happen. So I really don't know. He's not reached out. I thought he would have reached out by now. But there you go. I do not look like Tiger Woods. Oh, does Tiger laugh like that as well? I'm sure Tiger has a far better Manscaped job on his face than I do. If Pittman leaves, Petrino leaves, period. Yeah, my boldest take is if Sam gets fired during the season, all right, which I tend to think that he will. The guy that becomes the acting head coach will be T. Will. If we sponsor a cage match, can we get a pay-per-view with one of your rivals? Sure, if it's for charity, yeah. But I'm not a fighter. I'm not. But I will say this. He would probably beat me because I can't fight at all. If someone were to raise $100,000 and you can give it to charity, I would do it. I would do it. Okay. I would do it. But anyone that knows me knows that that's not me. That's not who I am. That is, I've never done anything like that. All right. And you can ask anybody in Arkansas media, even I used to do a daily radio show in Arkansas for 5 years. So I've covered the Razorbacks every day. All the guests, all the games that I would go to probably like 1 or 2 a game. I didn't live close enough to Fayetteville to really go to a ton of games. But and I get along with everyone. I get along with it. Ask anyone. All right. I'm very pro everybody that does this because really, and I'll let you behind the scenes. You got to see my revenue. You don't make a lot of money doing this, especially if you're on your own. Okay. Now, if you're Kirk Herbstreit, you make a lot of money. If you're Desmond Howard, you make a lot of money. But I don't make a lot of money doing this. So your donations, your super chats, I don't think we've gotten any super chats. That's okay. That keeps me afloat. And the little bit I make on those videos keeps me afloat. Now, of course, I have other YouTube channels. I DJ weddings, so on and so on. But, I'm trying to get to that level where I'm doing something nationally. So I really want you to know that video might have hurt me getting a chance to do something nationally. I don't know if it helped or hurt, but it could hurt me more than it helps me. That's how strong of a stance that made me feel, because I want other film study channels like myself to still get to do what they want to do. And I want to set a precedent for that. Okay. Take a few more. Pittman won't get fired this year. Yeah, I think it's 50-50 proposition. I hope he doesn't. And even though I am anti Sam Pittman being the coach at Arkansas, I am pro, and I really do mean this, I am pro Pittman, the person. Okay. So that'll do it for me. You will probably not hear from me until Thursday night. I will do a quick film study, but I will be flying into Vegas on Thursday for LSU USC. Okay. The job calls for me to be there. I do have to go, though, for the job. So I will be there, but we'll still do shows. And once again, our next Arkansas Live will not be next Monday at 5. It'll be next Tuesday at 5. And then we will be back doing Mondays at 5 p.m. Central. So I hope to see you next Tuesday at 5 p.m. Central. It is Power Out SEC. Boom. And tonight, we're doing tacos. Taco Monday. Isn't that how it goes? Let's go. Let's go.